10. This crowd is inspired, and I see the terrible towel twirling. Shotgun snap. Carr is back. Pumps. Wants to throw it long down the field. There's a man open, and he catches it at the 15, 10, 5. Ruggs touchdown.
They had 83 at one by himself. He ran, directly at me. Got me to sit on my feet. He's a big target for him, especially on big plays. I just can't stop my feet. I gotta stay in the middle of the field. Gotta be where I'm at. But yeah, that's on me 110%. I just gotta play better, do better.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. I'm Missi Matthews. The Steelers falling to 1-1 following their home opener loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, 26-17. Let's break it all down for you from Heinz Field. We now have our panelists to introduce: Mike Prisuta of the DVE Morning Show and Steelers.com, and we brought along two former Steelers experts. First up, Merril, Hoge, and we also have Craig Wolfley. But guys, we are going to start with the Steelers defense because of the injuries going into this game. We knew there was no Joe Hayden, no Devin Bush. Then in-game, Tyson Alualu fractured his ankle. TJ Watt with a groin injury. He only played 16 snaps, and the Steelers today placed Tyson Alualu on injured reserve and promoted Henry Mondeau from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Before knowing how bad it was, here's defensive captain Cam Hayward from postgame.
I don't know how much it played into the game. I know TJ was raring at the beginning of the game and had a lot of havoc early. Losing Ty was definitely something we had to adjust to. It took me a while to just settle down, but he's a heck of a player, and having a guy like Tyson and TJ out there, there's almost a blanket there. And we were already down 2 to start with. But it's going to have to be a collective effort. It's not one man to be Superman, but the group has to pick up the slack.
All right, Mike, here is what Tyson Alualu posted on Instagram last night from the hospital. Were the injuries on defense just too much for the Steelers to handle on Sunday?
Yeah, the scoreboard told us that the first half the Raiders didn't get a touchdown despite a couple of possessions where they were sniffing the goal line. And then it became T.J. Watt, strip sack, Alex Leatherwood, false start, Alex Leatherwood holding. Second half, no T.J. Watt, and the Raiders were able to score from distance at 61-yarder, a six-man pressure that did not get there, and they couldn't cover it on the back end. For a day at least, yeah, I think they hit the saturation point in terms of what they were capable of doing without.
Merril, what was your biggest takeaway from what the defense did in week 2 compared to week 1?
Well, first of all, they played a different opponent, and the style is different. So you have to always recognize that. I think that it's clearly to deny that Tyson and Watt are not difference makers. Would be completely incorrect. Those are difference makers, and not to have those guys can make a difference in a game. Now, that being said, I think we always completely ignore the other guys on the other side of the field are pros too, and they're pretty good. And Derek Carr had absolutely one of the most incredible days I've seen in his career, and I've watched him coming out of college. I've always been a fan of his, thought he had. I've always thought he could transition to this league well, and if there was not a game that probably illustrated that, it was unfortunately against the Steelers. He made some incredible throws. And if you want to go back to the big touchdown play, if you want to look at opportunities missed, Norwood, there was a 6-man blitz. Norwood, and blitzing is an art form. As he starts to blitz, he runs into a wide receiver. Well, why is that a big deal? Well, that delayed him in getting there. If he doesn't hit that guy, he's probably in the backfield. Carr doesn't make that throw. Even though Carr had done a great job of sitting down Fitzpatrick over on Waller, leaving the entire field open, probably doesn't get that throw off. Norwood was actually in any space when he went to throw it. So you can look at a bunch of things where they had opportunities without those guys to make the difference in the game. And those are the things that have to be cleaned up if they don't play the next few weeks. Obviously, Alualu is going to be out for a significant amount of time. Watt, nobody really knows, but it's those type of things where guys are going to have to make plays, and you can't make mistakes in critical opportunities. So that was very evident in this game that I think Derek Carr completely ignored in how well he played. And he made some ridiculous throws, not just the touchdown throws in fourth quarter, Waller on the wheel route. You have to make that throw. You don't want an incomplete at that point. You change the field position by that throw. You just make some under pressure too, by the way. So that's always often ignored. And too many times we point fingers, make excuses for the injuries around you versus really the facts and the reality that there could have been plays made. The other guys are really good, and the other guys did make some plays in this one, and unfortunately there were more than the Steelers.
Wolf, in terms of sticking with the defense, last week they were able to help an offense that got off to a slow start. What did your biggest takeaway from yesterday at Heinz Field?
They started off great. You had a full house. You got a full crowd. You got potentially the defensive player of the year getting ready to unload on a young buck who had more than he could handle, and you could see it. I mean, to quote the great teammate of both Merril and I, the great Bubby Brister, when he said, "Yeah, I'm fixing to come unglued." And I think Alex Leatherwood was fixing to come unglued. I mean, TJ had him going everywhere he wanted and beating the pants off of him. And then it just started falling apart as the game wore on. TJ goes, Tyson goes, you're digging in. Think about it. You're down not just Tyson, but you're down Stephon Tuitt. Then you're down Tyson. And now you're getting down to guys that, Isaiah Buggs has to contribute. Carlos Davis was down. There's just too many guys up front. So to go with that 4-man rush, you had issues and you had problems. And it was getting down to scraping, guys having enough energy enough to get the job done.
Triv, lack of pressure. What's the biggest thing you take away from the guys up front? As Wolf said, we're still without Stephon Tuitt. He can't even return until the Green Bay Packers week 4. But Carlos Davis, as he said, wasn't there. So there were a lot of young guys moving around.
Yeah, and I think, we may have got spoiled watching that Buffalo game and seeing the 4-man pressures all day except for one play. And they made life miserable for Josh Allen. It surprised me because the Raiders' offensive line was having its issues of its own. Neither one of the guys who were supposed to be starting at guard were available. Alex Leatherwood only lasted a half. They said he had an oblique. He got replaced. Their center only has, I think, one more game of starting experience in the NFL than Kendrick Green, even though he's been around for a couple of 3 years. That's an offensive line in transition. I thought they'd be able to exploit it a lot more. They were exploiting it with Watt, If he is going to be out for any length of time, they're going to have to try to come up with something a little creative, I think. I am interested to see what Jameer Jones can do on the pass rush, because I think that's one of the reasons he's on this team is the potential he showed in that department in preseason. But doing it in Philly in the preseason and doing it against Cincinnati in the regular season are two entirely different things. So if the game started out, it looked like it was going to be somewhat of a repeat of the Buffalo game. The defense would keep them in it and the offense would find a way to win it late. And unfortunately, neither one of those things happened.
Merril, in terms of 83, Darren Waller, we heard Mika Fitzpatrick a little bit earlier in the show talking about him. He gets attention for a very good reason. We saw what happened in terms of targets for week 1. Do you feel like the Steelers maybe paid a little bit too much attention to what he was doing, and that's why it opened it up for other guys like Henry Ruggs?
No, yeah, he's one guy that you say he can't beat us. That's how dangerous he is. To ignore that and say you can handle him in certain ways, because they did try to do it one-on-one. That fourth quarter play, the wheel route, they tried to put they got a linebacker on him. Truly, that's a mismatch. I don't care who the linebacker is. For the Steelers or anybody else, it's going to be an ultimate mismatch. They paid the price. So you could have been doing that the entire game, but they did a good job of doubling him. You can get caught, by taking care of one guy and somebody else rises to the occasion. But that's what what your game plan says. Okay, we're not going to let this guy beat us. This guy ends up beating us. I mean, we'll have to swallow that, but we can't let this guy, because everybody knows, including us, how dangerous he is. And so to ignore that, I think would be foolish. So I just go back to the Raiders did a really good job too. I mean, Derek Carr on that big touchdown did a great job of sitting down Fitzpatrick. He just does that pump just enough to freeze his feet. That's all it takes at this league. To get the post route over top of him, So those things are going to happen. Then I go back to Norwood. If Norwood doesn't run into the wide receiver on his way there, he's there much quicker. I don't know that Derek Carr gets that ball off. So there's a bunch of things going on that you don't see on television and highlights don't show you. That could have been different, even though all these difference makers weren't there. Could have made the outcome differently, which those are things you have to clean up and transfer on to next week.
All right, Wolf, let's end on a positive note in terms of the Steelers defense. Melvin Ingram got his first sack as a Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. What have you seen from him just in his short time he's been with the team, and kind of what is hopefully going to be that three-headed monster when TJ Watt is able to return?
What I love about Melvin is the fact that he gets after it. You know, he'll put his forehead right in a man's chin, climb the body, and you'll see old school bull rushing the way it used to be done circa Lamar Woodley and some of the other guys back in the 90s and 80s. I mean, that's just an old style bull rush. But the fact is he's also complimentary when he rushes from off the ball and inside doing things where he's involved in 2- and 3-man games. And the fact of the matter is he does play and set the edge very well. He is a run game or run down bully, as Mike Tomlin likes to say. But the fact is he's also an older guy. And when you have a three-headed monster, you're doing great. You love it. But when you only got 2, now you've got some issues, especially on a warm day. And that kind of rose up and bit him in the backside a little bit. But I've seen some good things out of Melvin Ingram. I expect to see more as the season unfolds.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here on the Extra Point. When we return, what is the Steelers' offensive identity and what's up with the run game? We'll talk about that and much more. We'll be right back.
Ben spreads him out. Shotgun. Najee gets the snap. He's back on 3rd down. Fires a bullet. Pulled in by Najee. Gets out of a tackle. 10-5. Touchdown, Najee Harris. Wow, did he make a great play.
Yo, baby, that's the way to go, Najee Harris.
No, like I said, you know, when you get a more feel of the game, you understand what type of defense they're in. So as a running back or as a player, you understand what's the free spots that's going to be there as the day go on. So, you know, I think he had me man, and I knew where the free spot was at, and I would have a lot of space to work with. So.
Welcome back to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. Now time to talk about the Steelers offense and Merril. We'll start with you and Wolf on this one. Sorry, Prisuta. What is the Steelers' identity? Have they figured that out yet, Merril, or is it just the growing pains, as Ben Roethlisberger alluded to prior to heading to Buffalo?
Well, no, they don't have an identity because they don't have something that they can trust and do each and every week. You know, you line up and go, we're going to do this. Doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter, you know what we're going to do. They don't have that. And the easiest way to create an identity, and really what they need from an identity perspective, is to establish a really critical, powerful running attack, because that permeates through the team. This doesn't just help your offense, it helps your defense. And the one thing that the best defense has at the end of the year, whoever that ends up being, they play the fewest snaps. Pretty statistical. That's pretty consistent every year. That's what happens. And so what offense can keep them off the field? Getting their running game and identity there is going to be critical. Now, as you study them, the good thing is all the things that they need to do can be done. They can be corrected, you know, and Wolf's going to talk a little bit about it. I don't want to elaborate too much on it. There's just a lot of missed errors, and that's angles and how you block. And if one guy on each run does their job a little better, takes the proper angle, you got a lot of room for Najee. Najee also is getting frustrated by this because as a runner, he's abandoned a couple of the runs. He has been too fast. He's not pressed the hole. He's not been patient. So he's starting to jump out of character, trying to make something happen. And see, it permeates negatively as it can permeate positively when you're not doing the right thing. So they are correctable. It does all start up front. And then Najee can't get out of character. He's got to stay disciplined on a couple runs and bail to the perimeter too quick. When you need to press the hole, the harder you press the hole, you pull defenders in, you make it easier on the block. When you take the ball and you try to get to the perimeter, it's very hard to do that. Now, he only did it a couple of times. It all still starts up front. But if they clean up those things, and I think they got to eliminate their motions and shifts right now. It's just not helping them. It's confusing them. It's not creating any advantage for them. I think it's a disadvantage, quite honestly, because it's not fooling anybody with their motions. It's bringing extra guys in the box that are not accounted for. So all those things can be fixed. That is the one thing that you know about them. It's just not going to happen in 1 week, but this would be a really good week to focus in on a few things like their counter trap and a few staple runs where everybody's sure where they're going to go, and then get the proper angles and give Najee at least an opportunity at the point of attack. When you start doing that, then the positive things will start to come and the identity will be there.
All right, Wolf, give us the lowdown on the O-line and just, what you've seen from week 1 to week 2. Coach Tomlin said, penalty-free basically in Buffalo, but that was not the case yesterday against the Raiders.
No, it wasn't, and it's a shame. Right now, Merril speaks the truth. Merril's telling you from experience. He knows, he understands from a running back's mindset. You got to experience some success. Coach Noel always used to say, success begets success. If you start off with some successful running, the ability to throw 4, 8, 12-yard runs in there right from the get-go, things are going to start rolling better for you. And maybe a simplification without the bells and whistles. I was all for the motions. I was all for those things, pre-snap shiny things, post-snap shiny things, to kind of keep that defense a little bit offset and make them freeze a little bit. That's not happening yet. So maybe just getting back and simplifying. And it comes with one block, one guy, one time, all right? So if you're blocking on the downside, on the front side, blocking down, maybe getting your head in front rather than being behind the guy, which creates an opportunity for that defensive guy to get up the gap. You got to get your head in front. If you're on the backside, you've got to cut off and throw your body in there and be able to get the cutoff. I mean, I know Adrian Clem. This guy's an old school, tough guy, wants people moved off the ball, get after it. And, we saw some good feistiness in Buffalo, and there was good feistiness yesterday. But if you're not progressively getting better in your skills, making sure you dot the I's, cross the T's, you're going to have problems. And some of the problem comes with the young guys having an ability to understand what their blocking radius is. You're on a track, and you got to stay on that track if you run outside zone, inside zone. It's not like gap blocking back in the day with Merril and I. You knew who you had, and you knew where that ball was going exactly. So you got to move that guy, and the onus is on you. But in this, with the guys, especially young guys, you're a little bit off on, do I have this guy or not? You might bypass a most dangerous man, all right, and get to another guy, and then you leave that most dangerous man making the hit or disrupting Najee in the backfield. When you're getting a handoff and you're getting somebody in your grill right on the handoff, ask Merril. Merril, you can answer this. What's it like when you get somebody simultaneous in your grill while you're getting the ball? It's a little difficult to decide where to go with it, I would say.
Well, that's why we always say, Wolf, penetration is the #1 killer in the running game because it eliminates a running back's options. Once you define where the runner goes, advantage defense. The case in point, why they got to win at the point attack, at attack. The offensive line has that responsibility. As a runner, I have to enhance that by attacking it and pressing it because that helps you guys. I can't abandon that before it even happens. And that's starting to happen because I know what Najee's thinking. Well, I'll just make something happen. Nothing's happening up front. Don't trust it, so I'm going to try to make something happen. So before it goes south too quick, you got to reel this thing back in, get yourself some confident runs that you can run. I love the counter trap. They're close on a counter trap. See, they hit one of their big runs was a counter trap.
Right.
They were close on a couple others, but to your point, Wolf, they came off on the wrong angle. They get one guy gets beat. The hard blocks actually are done. The one at the line of scrimmage was missed, or you got a seam. You got a canally going there, but with that one guy, he makes the tackle. So they are that close. And I think this week is going to be really pivotal that they hone in and focus on some staples and make it very simple so they can get some confidence.
Triv, Coach Tomlin said after the game, besides the penalties, he was also upset with them not having enough detail on those possession downs. We also heard from Ben Roethlisberger. What did you make of how the Steelers felt this offensive performance kind of started to go downhill?
Well, I mean, Ben's frustration was pretty apparent after the game. And one of the things that really spoke volumes to me along those lines was the 7 third downs that they were unable to convert. I think it was an average of 8.7 yards per attempt. There was a lot of 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 6. So that tells you not a lot was happening on 1st and 2nd down. It was interesting when they got to the 4th quarter and there was that situation. Do they punt or did they go for it? I'm thinking, well, I might be inclined to go for this. And then I thought, well, what play am I going to run? What am I sure is going to get me a yard right now? And I didn't come up with one. So I'm with Wolf and Merril. I think you stay with it. As long as I've been hanging around the game, when teams are struggling, they say stay at it, keep working on it, gradually improve it. You know, Najee Harris has talked about feeling much further along in the process after just 2 games. Hopefully the linemen are feeling the same. Hopefully the more that they play and play together, they can start popping one here. We've seen it work. We just haven't seen it work consistently. They need more consistency. And to Merril's point, they need a go-to that they can kind of rely upon when things get tough or when you need to make a play. And if you can get to that, you can build off that.
All right, guys, thanks so much for your time here on the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. The Steelers get to stay at home once again this weekend. The Cincinnati Bengals coming to town. Don't forget, Coach Tomlin's press conference is Tuesday at noon, so hopefully we get an update. Also, Deontay Johnson was hurt at the end of the game as well, so a lot of injury news I'm sure will be updated on. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.
What's up, Steelers Nation? It's James Washington. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to like and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the Steelers official YouTube channel. Thanks again, and here we go.